Hey everybody, what's up? This is Tim with today's SCE. Hope wherever you're at, you're doing awesome and killing it, and thanks so much for watching. So I just got done busting out about an 8-mile run, and I'm feeling pretty buzzed right now. So we hope this doesn't get a little or too giddy, but I'm feeling a little bit smelly, a little bit sweaty, although you know that vibe is going to transmit right through here, and hopefully you end up feeling some of those good vibes and walking away jazzed. So we're in the middle of our series on how to create an epic belief system, and today we're going to talk about the nitty-gritty of it, how actually to believe. And the simple fact is that belief is in your mouth. And for this particular clip, I want to use one of the greatest stories that illustrates how to believe, and that story comes to us out of the Bible. Now, I'm not here to preach to you, I'm not here to lecture to you, but in my experience, I've not found any book that speaks better to success than the Bible. If you practice what it teaches, you can succeed at anything you want to. Apart from the fact that I believe it's the spiritual truth, it is for sure universal law, and if you practice it, it will work for you, and it works consistently. So in the book of Joshua, Joshua was a guy who had a big job. He was entrusted with leading the Israelites into the promised land. And this was about 3 million people who left Egypt and wandered in the desert for 40 years with no direction until God brought them back to the promised land. And if you know the story, you know that 40 years before they tried to take the promised land, but they weren't able to because of their doubt. So Joshua ascends to the leadership position for Moses, and he has a council with God. And he's kind of like, God, you know, what do I do to lead these people? Because this is a big deal. There's a lot at stake. 3 million people are on the line. It's funny because God didn't tell him to pray. God didn't tell him to lock himself in a cave or to sing songs or to do any kind of bizarre kind of ritual. He said, I want you to meditate on my word or meditate on my promises. And that's all I want you to do. So when you look at that word meditate in the Bible, we think that it just means to sit around and think about and contemplate. But when you translate it into the original Hebrew, it does mean to think about, but it also means to think about, to contemplate, and to speak continually. So God's instructions to Joshua were to take God's promises and to speak them continually day and night. Promises like, you are the head and not the tail, you are on top and not beneath. All nations will serve you. I have made you rich. I have given you this land. And what he was telling Joshua to do is to say that to himself again and again and again, and to say it out loud. And that is the way you create belief. Up to this point, you know, we've talked about the fact that belief is an idea. It's an idea that we've given a lot of meaning to, and it's an idea that we practice. So hopefully you've identified the idea you want, you got that vision down. Last week you got your why, your leverage on yourself as to what the importance is behind it. And now you're going to start to practice it. And the way you start to practice it is through total immersion. You want to think about that thought. You want to get that thought in your mind as much as possible. But even more importantly, you want to get it into your mouth. You want to say it, and you want to say it out loud. The reason for that is you are literally reprogramming yourself. You are changing your identity. God told Joshua how to change his identity. It's by getting his promises into his mind and his mouth. And in doing so, he's going to develop that unconscious competence that we talked about, and it's going to become who he is. Not a promise he's striving for, not something he's trying to become, but it's literally going to become who he is. He's changing his identity. And that's the way we believe. That's the way we change our identity, because when we believe something, it's who we are. So we not only think about it, but we start to say it to ourselves. And the way that you say it to yourself is super important. You want to always state your belief in the first person, in the positive, and in the present. So last week I talked about the fact that I want to be a runner. And the belief that I'm trying to incorporate is that I am a great runner. So the more I say that, I am a great runner, I'm a great runner, I'm a great runner, and the more I say that in the first person, and that it exists now, and with emotion, I am supercharging that. Because you are building a new neuroleptic pathway in your brain, right? You are building it through your thoughts, and then you intensify it with your emotions, you intensify it with your verbiage. And sound waves have power. Sound waves are one of the few things that can travel through space unhindered. And they actually believe now that sound waves embed themselves in solid objects. And if we had the technology, we could literally pull out any sound wave that was ever radiated in the universe and dissect every conversation that ever occurred, every sound that ever happened. And we know that in a room, if a piano hits a certain note, it can literally cause a glass to vibrate across the room. That's how powerful sound waves are. So when you get that belief, when you get that thought, you got to put it in your mouth, and you got to say it to yourself again and again and again. The best place to do that is in your car on the way to work, on the way home. Go for a walk, go for a run, and start confessing that belief over and over again. I'm a great runner, I'm a great runner, I'm a great runner, I'm a great runner. And you got to build it into your daily routine. I found that it takes usually about 30 days for it to take root. Sometimes it can take up to a year for it to manifest. Sometimes it happens a lot quicker, but if you practice that every day for 30 days, it will gradually change your identity. That belief will be incorporated into your identity, and you will become that belief. So how you believe is you get that thought down, you get your leverage behind you, you start to immerse yourself in it through thought, and then you start to say it to yourself out loud as much as possible. That's it, your belief is in your mouth. So next week we're going to talk about how you live that belief out through your actions, and this is the final step in the process. But the most important thing is you meditate on that belief. You say it to yourself again and again and again as much as possible, because the more you say it, the more it goes into your ears, and those sound waves literally travel into your cells and embed themselves there and will change your identity. And over time, you will become that belief and you will incorporate it. And this is the way to believe anything you want to. Joshua changed his identity. He went in and the Hebrews kicked ass all through the promised land, and they took it. And they took it not through any other means but by assuming the identity God gave them. And you can assume any identity you want to by getting that belief in front of your eyes, in your ears, in your thoughts, in your mouth. Next week we're going to talk about how to get into your actions, but you can come and do anything you want to through this method. It works, and it works without fail. So this is Tim from the LV, hoping you found a lot of use in this. Get that idea, intensify it, get it in front of you, say it out loud in your car, when you're by yourself, when you're running, when you're walking, as much as you can. Do it for 30 days, watch how it changes you. Next week we're going to incorporate it into our actions. This is like dumping on the afterburner and just totally igniting it, and you will become what you believe through this process. Thanks so much for watching.